The reason this play called out to me, the reason I picked it for the season was that it lines up fantastically with our company. We have a resident company of actors, and many of our actors are young people, and it's a young person's play.
Shakespeare is so brilliant. His rhythms, I mean, he's like the first really great rap artist. When you think about it, iambic pentameter, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
I have to make drawings to show not only to Joe, the director, to say this is what I want these women to look like, but then to the technician who's going to make those garments.
The way the politics of the play are, there was no, oh, I see, it's 1957 Budapest. I mean, there was no way to place it narrowly in some sort of geopolitical perspective. But of course you have to put clothes on actors, and once you put on clothes, you're placing it someplace.
I need to think about the body shape of the performer, the character attributes of the character that they're playing, color, silhouette, communicating a certain period in time through shape and silhouette, and then the personality of the actor and how that converges with the personality of their character.
I guess when we started working on As You Like It, I was trying to find an environment that would match the needs of the play, and that was kind of timeless, kind of spaceless.
The play is comprised of these two worlds. There's the world of the court, and there's the world of the forest. And the world of the court is a hard, cold, man-made world.
That world of the court will be very visually, in terms of the clothing, very organized and meticulous, this very tight, severe military suit, and then the women in these hopefully breathtaking, expensive-looking gowns.
And then there's the forest, and the forest is of course not man-made. It's a place where the characters go, those who flee the court, those who are banished from the court, those who run off to the forest. The forest is a place of redemption.
What the director and I talked about is, what would these city folk, these powerful people, do to survive in the forest?
The forest, and As You Like It, it doesn't give the same thing to each person. It gives each person what they need, and that's different for each of our main characters.
It should feel that whatever instruments we used were instruments that they could actually carry into the forest. So guitars, maybe, accordion, possibly, but not a piano or an organ or anything like that.
We talked a lot about Irish music and about contemporary Irish music, and there's a sense of such joy in the music, and also there's sadness in it.
There's a cold and a lonely feeling that comes from that. So you may hear more reverberation, this feeling alone in a large space in the first act, where in the second act it may be, in music we say drier. For example, Orlando, when we first see Orlando, I'm going to be using a tin whistle, which is, it has kind of a bite to it, an edge. It's a colder sound. The theme will change slightly because we're now into spring, and I'll be using a different instrument. I'll be using a flute, which is warmer.
I found a photographer from that era. His name was August Sanders, and he made it his business to photograph real people in Germany in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. And so I collected a big scrapbook of images of those real people. And what we have in the fitting room is what we call in a costume shop a boutique of clothing. A boutique is a collection of clothing that is pulled from the theater's costume shop, rented from other theaters or other costume stocks, and purchased. It's like making a collage, a three-dimensional collage in the fitting room. We start out in the forest in winter, and people have on heavy coats and tweeds and wools. And then as the weather begins to warm and thaw, it's the trick is just to simply remove some of those heavier layers.
I kept talking about this idea of seasons and this idea of the mirror images of the court and the forest. And it made us think that maybe we didn't want a whole separate idea of set for the court and the forest, but somehow a world that lit a certain way, positioned people a certain way, could say court, and a world that could say forest. And it's all fenced in, an idea of this totalitarian regime, an idea of oppression. And when we come back to the second act of our play, the second half of our play, the spring of the play, all that fence, all that thing that held it all down, and the dark backdrop behind, all that goes away, and it opens into a forest with a white cyc, and we have a sense of I can breathe, a sense of expansion, a sense of room, and the difference between the man-made and the constricted versus the wildness of the forest.
So that's the sort of two locations we're ending up using. One is the court world of inside society, and then the wild world outside. And it's not as simple as good and evil as inside society is bad and outside society is good. It's inside society you have to play by the rules. There are lots of rules and orders, and it's tricky, but there's also warmth and comfort. Out in the forest we then get freedom, but there's no dry socks. There's food you have to hunt for. It's dangerous. We have to dress up as men to make sure we will be safe from robbers.
There's a lot of magic that happens in the fitting room, and that has to do with a human dynamic rapport between a designer and an actor. And we talk about simple things like, are they slovenly? Are they organized? Are they feminine? All sorts of character adjectives that help inform how not only which clothes they wear, but how they would wear them. What you'll see when you look at the characters of Phoebe and Audrey and Corin's and Martex and Sylvia's, it's a layering of worlds, and there's nothing that's really right or wrong. It's a chance to be really creative.
If there's any problem you haven't solved, you will see it when you get to this stage. You build it in 3 dimensions, and that's when you know you've got it worked out. And then this serves as a tool for rehearsal, so everyone can stand around and point to where they're going to work.
It's the deck of the play. We have a very deep thrust stage, which means the stage comes all the way out into the audience, and we have this enormous round disc, which is the playing area, which will be covered in a green tile, which will read both as the floor for the court and the forest floor for the forest as we move back and forth between them.
It's the kind of room that focuses beautifully on the interactions between the people, right? It's the possibility of a thrust theater. It gets you the closest you can to the audience. It gets you the best relationship for the most number of people. All of my design work is treating that relationship between the audience and the performer, and the fact that they affect each other. That the audience sitting out there breathing is the basis of theater. Otherwise it's film, right? The film is no different depending on how many people are in the audience, but in theater it matters. It matters very much how the audience is present, how much they're paying attention, how they respond. That's the whole thing.